because she's so we're beginning the Ending Mass Incarceration and the Death Penalty subcommittee of the Advancing Human Rights Committee. We're doing introductions. I'm Teresa Elamine, the convener of the subcommittee, and I'm with the Fannie Lou Hamer branch in Columbus, Georgia, getting ready to go to the Ending Mass Incarceration National Conference at Ebenezer Baptist Church in Atlanta, where there will be approximately 1,000 people expected over the 3-day conference, January 11th, 12th, and 13th. Kathleen, would you please unmute and introduce yourself, your name, your location, and what is one thing you want to tell us about yourself? Kathleen, and say your whole name so we have the correct pronunciation, Kathleen.
Yeah, hi. I'm Kathleen Genty. I'm based in New Jersey in a small suburb that's about like 30-ish minutes outside of New York City. And I actually joined the Women's International League for Peace and Freedom last week, so I'm quite new. But I have been to one other subcommittee meeting. I went to the UN for Women subcommittee meeting. So yeah, I'm pretty new here, but I'm excited to get involved.
Well, thank you. I am shocked to hear there was a UN for Women subcommittee, because that's been the best kept secret. So at some point, I'd like to talk with you, Kathleen, and we've exchanged emails, and I think you sent me your number and I sent you mine. So let's do talk. So people will be joining the meeting, but let's go with Joan Goddard for her introduction.
Hi, I'm in the South San Francisco Bay Area, live in a small town called Campbell, right next to San Jose. And our Wilf branch is San Jose, Wilf San Jose. We also have several other branches around the Bay Area. It's sort of amazing. And I am looking forward to hearing what people are doing and being inspired and seeing what Philip and others in our area, what we can do together to get some attention to EMI and DP. Thank you.
Thank you, Joan. So since Robin Lloyd is unmuted, Robin, you know the drill, your name, your branch, and one thing.
Trouble is I'm eating. Anyway, yeah, here I am, Burlington, Vermont, Wilf. And one thing is that there's no snow on the ground here.
Amazing. Amazing. So Lucy, if you could introduce yourself, thank you.
Yes, Lucy Murphy, District, Maryland and Virginia branch of Wilf. And in the district, Maryland and Virginia, we have no death penalty.
Amazing.
But people come to demonstrate at the Supreme Court around the issue at least twice a year. So I joined them there. But one of our issues in terms of incarceration is we used to have a state penitentiary called Lawton. And when they decided that our finances were not right and a control board took over, we lost the state penitentiary. And now people who are convicted in Washington, D.C. are sent to prison all over the country, which makes it very difficult for their families to visit and keep in touch.
Well, that sounds like an issue to work on. So we'll go with Ashley Carrington, who just joined us. And Ashley, we're giving our name, our branch, and one thing you want to tell us about in under a minute. Ashley Carrington, please.
Hi, Ashley Carrington, she, they pronouns. I am of the Triangle branch located, I am located in Raleigh, North Carolina. The branch is in the Chapel Hill area. One thing to know, we have our next One Wolf call that's coming up on Thursday. Please, everybody register if you can. We will be having Sally Rahmani, an Iranian feminist protester, coming to speak to update us on what's going on in Iran right now. So yes, that is all. Thank you.
Now Philip Cole, please. Philip, can you?
Hello, yes.
Oh, okay.
This is Philip Cole. I am a member of the San Francisco branch. And so just keeping busy here, waiting out the storms. Thank you.
Well, Philip Cole is also a member of the National Board and has been for over a year now, I believe. And he's the at-large member on the National Board. George Friday, who will be joining the National Board officially in a couple of weeks. Please introduce yourself, George, and all your titles, whatever.
Okay. Good morning, afternoon, people. George Friday here at the Southern Piedmont Branch in North Carolina. I look forward to being program committee chair, starting with the meeting at the end of this month. And I have a very, very close friend who I love dearly. The only reason I have any association with UFPJ, George Mark, who had some serious health problems. And over the last 2 weeks, I couldn't reach him by phone. His phone was disconnected. I was totally freaking out. But I found out just before this call that he's well. He's having some problems still, but you know, he's still around. I was freaking out thinking, you know, he left us. And so I'm just kind of happy and grateful and overwhelmed that my good friend is still on this side of the world with us. Thanks.
Well, that is good news since I do know George Martin, and he is a serious peace person, and he's been peacemaking for the whole time I've known him. So George Martin is famous, and I'm glad to know he's still around. So we see that Mary Green has joined us. So Mary Green, with the picture of all the men, it looks like there. Mary Green, are you, if you could say your name and your pronouns and what branch you're in, and one thing you want to tell us. Mary Green.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Oh, good. I'm trying to change the video so that you can see me. I'm working on it. For some reason, it's not letting me. I'm from the Wilf branch in Philly. We used to have a Norristown branch of Wilf, but there aren't enough people around to have a branch for Norristown at this point. So I've been part of Wilf for some 35 years or so, but I haven't always been active. But I'm recently retired, so I'm really into this topic, and I think it'll be really helpful for me to be here at the meeting. So I appreciate that you're having it during the day. It's easier for me. And it's great to see everybody here. Thank you.
Well, it's great to have you here. So I always like to know how many branches we have represented. So we have the Triangle branch, the San Francisco branch, the Southern Piedmont branch, the Burlington, Vermont branch, the Greater Philadelphia branch, the DMV branch, the Fannie Lou Hamer branch, and the San Jose branch. Kathleen, we're trying to get a branch started in New York City. We have enough members there, and so maybe you can connect with that branch once it's started. The agenda.
Yeah, for sure.
Great, Kathleen. We'll talk later. So
Teresa, who is the organizer in New York?
Well, it's kind of shaky, but Nellie Hester Bailey and I have been working together, but she's having trouble with her eyesight. She's actually blind, and she's been in California for the last couple of months. So she travels, and she's not going to be the best person to be the organizer. But there's a long list of people who are actually considered at-large members in New York City, and we will eventually get around to them. There's a lot of drama that came about when the branch was dissolved in New York City, but we can talk about that possibly at the BLC meeting on the 29th, because there are several Black members in New York City who are capable of pulling the branch together. But thanks for asking the question, Lucy.
Yeah, I'll be in New York from February 10th through the 12th.
Oh, just for 2 days?
3 days.
3 days.
11, 12. And the 11th, I'll be all day at the People's Forum.
Well, let's talk about the connections you might be able to make to get the branch started. Thank you. So what we're going to do is go branch by branch, because the way that mass incarceration works is basically state by state. DC does not have its statehood yet, and the story about them losing their prison is really instructive. But the state of Georgia still has the death penalty, and a lot of people are killed here every year. So I don't know how many were killed in 2022, but several people were killed by the state of Georgia. So we still have the death penalty, and mass incarceration is significant. So the Fannie Lou Hamer branch held an Ending Mass Incarceration conference on December 10th, and it was an expungement event. So all of us who had been arrested for felonies or misdemeanors were able to meet with the assistant district attorney and with the solicitor general to get our records expunged. Well, the solicitor general, wonderful woman, Suzanne Goddard, she was the one who dismissed my charges in 2013. So when she said, Teresa, I will handle getting your records expunged, because I thought getting your charges dismissed meant that your records were automatically wiped clean. Not so. If you've been arrested, unless you take affirmative action to get your records expunged, you will always have a record. And I went to the police department and got my record, my mugshot and everything, and I brought it to the conference. She said, I'll take care of that, Teresa. And on December 19th, she sent me an order signed by Judge Andy Prather, which says that my records are sealed and I no longer have a record. So that was a big accomplishment coming out of the Fannie Lou Hamer Branch Human Rights Conference. And there were about 7 of us who were able to bring our records there to get them expunged. There were some people with felonies. I had only 2 misdemeanors. And so both of those 2 misdemeanors were wiped out, and I have the documents to prove it. And I applied for an apartment recently, and they do a background check, and they found out that my records are clear, so I don't have a record. So that's kind of what's going on from the Fannie Lou Hamer branch perspective in Georgia, in addition to going to the national conference starting tomorrow, where there will be several members of the Metro Atlanta branch at the conference. So I'm gonna mute myself, and we will go to Robin, since she had such great people involved in incarceration. to give us a report about the state of Vermont, because I don't think they have a death penalty. If you could, Robin, a report on the state of Vermont.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no death penalty here. There is an interesting development, which is that we have a very progressive state's attorney, a state's auditor, excuse me. His name is Doug Hoffer. He's a progressive. He's a friend of mine, really. And as auditor, he looks into different issues and he audits, you know, in state government. So he found that the found significant deficiencies in the Vermont Department of Corrections grievance process, including incomplete data, little oversight, and at times an apparent lack of response to reports filed by incarcerated individuals. The DOC is required by law to have a way for incarcerated people to file complaints, et cetera, et cetera. So I was looking at that, and there has been a response from the DOC. We really welcome the opportunity to collaborate with them and work through it, said DOC Commissioner. Now, you know, those are nice words, but are they really doing it? So I emailed actually today to get prepared for today for the meeting, the head of the corrections committee in the state legislature. Now they've just met in the last few days, the new season, the new semester, and asked her whether the Department of Commissions is really moving forward on dealing with, because it's an important issue, and my committee, the committee of WILF on incarceration, takes this issue very seriously. So I'm hoping she will respond, the woman, and she's not my personal rep in the state legislature, but I'm hoping she will respond. So that's really all I have to report this month.
Well, that's good to hear. But the one thing we want to focus in on is the reduction of people who are incarcerated. And so as we do these reports for the rest of the meeting and for next month's meeting, let's be prepared to talk about how the prison population has increased or decreased at the state level. I do know that there's less than 2% Black people in Vermont. So in terms of the prison population in Vermont, I'm hoping it's relatively low, but we want to have that data for our next meeting. What percentage of the population of the state of Vermont is actually incarcerated? Thank you for your report, Robin. So who would like to go next? Joan, you're unmuted, so we'll call on California, and then we'll call on Philip, since both of you are in California. What's happening with the state of California?
No, I'm sorry, I haven't done my homework, and I will be doing that, but hopefully Philip has information. And there's a lot of work to be done because there are a lot of people in prison in California, and way out of percentage of the population are the Black folks in the prisons in California. So, Philip, do you have anything more up to date in terms of progress?
Hang on, I will add this. Take my mask off. In California, there's been a significant change in the way prisoners are treated. As you know, in most states, when prisoners make a phone call to their home or to their family, it's routed through a third-party vendor, which has the ability to charge exorbitant rates. So a phone call to your family to keep in touch with the outside world can cost you anywhere from several dollars to $30 or $40 per phone call, which separates you from the outside world and makes it harder for your reentry into society. In California, those phone calls going forward will be free. So it's a great improvement. It will be a great help toward the reintroduction of prisoners into the real world. So hopefully other states will take the same route, because having third-party vendors able to make money off of prisoners is no more than another version of slavery. Thank you.
Well, that's true, and it's happening. It's happening in every state where these private companies charge an arm and a leg. So people call you collect, and these companies make money. Unbelievable. So can we talk about the state of North Carolina? So George, you and Ashley are here from North Carolina. So what's the state of things in North Carolina, George?
Well, over my break in the Triangle on New Year's Day, I went to a party and met a young man who was the son of one of my fraternity brothers. He's from Connecticut. His name is Keelan Lyons, and he works for the Justice Center Project, North Carolina Policy Watch. And he and I talked about a few things and and I think he's going to be a speaker at an upcoming event. But what we talked about that's relevant is that after a hiatus since 2006, there is likely to be a push at the state level to reinstitute or start killing people again. And right now there's 134 men on death row, half of them Black. One man who's been there since 1985 would be the first person to be put to death if they started doing it again. There's a woman, 89-year-old woman who's been on death row. She's the longest woman on death row, the oldest woman on death row. And she might be a focus on an event we would have in either Black History Month or Women's History Month, depending on us, the Southern Piedmont branch, and Poor People's Campaign getting partners to do a statewide event. So I'm keeping a relationship with this young man. I mean, I think of him, he's probably in his 40s, but I think of him as a young man. And he's new at Policy Watch, but he said when we spoke that there's a push in the newly elected folks who have just taken their seats, probably either now or this week. And one of the things they're going to probably push for is doing a restart of the death penalty. So I'm looking to get the Fellowship of Reconciliation and North Carolina Torture Now, Poor People's Campaign, and some other groups to partner to have an event, depending on the timing of getting all the partners, either February for Black History Month or March for Women's History Month, to get ahead of this and push for them to get rid of it completely, not just have a moratorium. So there's a lot of work to do.
Well, that sounds very important, especially since Governor Cooper has basically set up a kind of moratorium on the death penalty during his term. So is Governor Cooper coming to the end of his 2 terms?
I believe so. I don't know for sure. It may be next in 2024 is the end of his term.
Well, North Carolina governor terms is always on the presidential schedule. So you're right. In 2024, North Carolina will be electing a new governor, and he's a Democrat, but the State House has always been, since 2010, 10, during that awful changeover, majority Republican state legislature, which is why Floyd McKissick Jr. gave it up, as people are just getting sick of it. So is that still the case? Is majority Republican State House?
It absolutely is. The key difference between now and last year is that the Republicans are in majority in the Court of Appeals and the state Supreme Court. The state Court of Appeals being the biggest factor, according to this guy.
Well, we'll be listening to hear more. Ashley, do you have anything to add for North Carolina?
George covered everything pretty well. I just wanted to drop an update about the event the ACLU of North Carolina and Decarcerate Now held outside of the executive mansion on the 1st. It went really well, and it was pretty much a mock funeral to show how many people who had died inside the prisons in 2022. And basically, Christy, one of the organizers, was just telling us, you know, it's really important for us to keep remembering that he's doing okay, but there's still more to be done. And we definitely need to expand the use of clemency. And so, you know, just bringing attention to the fact of like what was mentioned, that it's very expensive to make phone calls. There's literally nothing going on in terms of COVID protection. There's suicide has actually skyrocketed, especially here in North Carolina, among prisoners of color. So providing more mental health services. And so just basically holding Governor Cooper responsible and saying, you know, you're the governor, you're the one who can provide this relief, provide it. So it went well. We're hoping that the next event is going to be a little bit more publicized, but with it being New Year's Day, there's a lot, you know, going on with the events and stuff. But yes, so that was one of the things that was going on here.
Great, that sounds good. Well, our last state is Pennsylvania. So Mary Green, do you have anything to report about the state of Pennsylvania? I'm not sure if the state of Pennsylvania still has the death penalty. Can you bring us up to date on that?
I'm sorry, I don't feel prepared. I'm not sure. I think Pennsylvania still has the death penalty, but I haven't looked into it lately. And as a Quaker, I believe that there definitely has been like opposition towards it, but I don't think anybody's been given lethal injection or anything in a long time in Pennsylvania, from what I recall. But I know the group that I'm active with, the Quakers, we've been working on bail bonds and, you know, trying to get the decrease in the bail bonds so that people don't have to just automatically be held in jail and in prison. So, but I do know that we are also working on the phone systems, because I read about it in the newspaper in the last month. So I'll have to check on that when I get out of this meeting to find out whether or not we took care of that, so that our prisoners don't have to pay so much, like through the third-party businesses. My son was in jail a number of times, and I'm very familiar with the systems. Fortunately, he wasn't in a federal prison or he was in for like 4 months at a time. So I kind of have an idea what it's like around the Philadelphia area. But yeah, I do know people within my Quaker group that are working on different aspects of the correctional issues. But I have to check on a few of those statistics, like how many people are incarcerated and all of that. I'm not up on that. Sorry, but I'll get back.
Well, thank you. Our meetings are always the second Monday of every month.
Okay.
And since Lucy is putting quite a bit in the chat, I wanted to ask her to say a little bit about what she's posted in the chat around abolition, because there is still a federal death penalty. And we really need to get rid of the federal death penalty. So, Sister Lucy, your comments.
Just that there is an organization that the website is www.abolition.org, and Abe Bonowitz, who is either from Iowa or Idaho, someplace in the middle of the country, is always bringing friends and family of death row inmates to the Supreme Court for hearings and demonstrations. So I put his the website and his information, because he would be a good person to tap.
I would encourage the DMV branch to take that action, because DC is the seat of the federal government. And I would think that Eleanor Holmes Norton, who represents DC as a delegate, she's 84 years old, and she's very hard to reach these days. So I'd like to think that DC folks will be getting prepared for possibly a new delegate. The last time I saw her speaking live, she seemed quite infirmed, so to speak. And when I contacted her scheduler about the Fannie Lou Hamer branch meeting, there was no response.
Well, I'll work on getting you connected, but
no, I don't need no.
The death penalty in Washington, D.C., the people in our branch are not working on that. And I'd be happy to connect you with people who are, but they're not in D.C.
Well, I don't need you to connect me, so please don't waste your time.
Okay.
Because I know who's, I'm in Georgia, and so my focus is on Georgia. Okay. So at some point, if we decide as a subcommittee that we want to take on the federal death penalty, it'll be something that we all would unite around working on. But I don't need any extra task or work, thank you. We're at
I'm going to another meeting on Nicaragua, and
great.
I'll check with you all later.
Thank you. Glad you could join us, because we're coming to the close of this meeting, because unless there's something else to come before the subcommittee, we will just confirm our meeting for next month, which would be on the second Monday in February. So that date would be February 13th, which is also a date I have on my calendar for the DMV branch. Their meeting is not until 4 p.m. that day. So is February 13th. I don't show that it's any holiday. So President's Day, I believe, is February 20th. So we seem to be okay to meet for February 13th at 2 p.m. Does that work for everybody? George, why is your hand raised?
I wanted to mention something before we close.
Go right ahead.
Just a reminder, if you, on the 11th, to think about Guantanamo and people who are there. That's all.
I don't understand what you just said.
January 11th is a key date when it comes to Guantanamo. And there are a lot of actions on that day. There'll be one in North Carolina. And I just wanted people to be aware of the commemorate 21 years Guantanamo's been open now. That's it.
Well, that sounds like a nice tidbit. On January 11th, I will be in Atlanta for the Ebenezer National Ending Mass Incarceration conference. And so, but the one thing we should announce, George, are you there? The one
yeah.
thing we should announce is the one Wolf Call, which is taking place on this Thursday, and I will be at the concert at the EMI conference, so I will not be at the one Wolf Call. Is there anything that anyone would like to add about the plans for the one Wolf Call? Ashley has already informed us of the importance of the Iranian speaker who's going to be there. So hopefully all of you will be there. And since the meetings are quarterly, I will try to get Mary Beth Garden to announce that the second anniversary of the Fannie Lou Hamer branch will be taking place on March 18th in Columbus. And we'll be focusing in on keeping girls out of the prison pipeline. So the theme for our anniversary is going to be an in-person meeting, and we're going to give out the inaugural Phenomenal Woman Fannie Lou Hamer Branch Award. So it's going to be a great event. So the registration link that somebody just put in the chat, is that for the one Wolf Call?
Yeah.
It is.
Well, thank you. I know I won't be able to make it. So hopefully all of you will be, and I'll try to get my announcement to Mary Beth Garden. Is there anything else to come before the subcommittee before we adjourn?
Yeah, I'd like to ask, isn't there a meeting of Advancing Human Rights tonight at 8 p.m. or am I wrong?
I believe you're right, George. What do you know about that?
I can double check, but I think you're correct, Robin. It's not a meeting you needed to register for, but it is scheduled for.
Okay, aren't all of you going to that?
Well, I will plan to be there because I'm never out after dark. So I will definitely be home and I will plan to attend. So thanks for the reminder, Robin, because it was kind of late notice. I just saw the notice from Donna a few days ago. So George, as program committee chair, your role in being kind of over all the issue committees, this is something you should kind of be prepared to keep track of as program committee chair. So please don't let us lose sight and do whatever you can to support Donna, because your role as program committee chair is to make sure that the issue committees are functioning well. And hearing about the UN for Women meeting, which excluded a whole bunch of people because it was not announced. So that will be part of the discussion tonight. I will make sure of it. So if there's nothing else before the subcommittee, let's close out the recording. And George, you can send the recording out and send the chat out if you don't mind.
Joan has something.
Oh,
No.
what do you have, Joan?
I just wondered whether who will represent this committee, this subcommittee, at the one Wolf Call to at least mention that there are monthly meetings, and the second the date and who to contact to find out about the meetings.
Well, I'm the convener of the subcommittee. So if any one of you would announce that the Ending Mass Incarceration and the Death Penalty meets every second Monday at 2 p.m. So we do have a standing meeting. So any one of you can make that announcement if there's an opportunity to do so.
And George does a great job of sending out the information to the branches list. So could just alert, remind people about that to watch for it or something. We can put something in the text, and then probably would get called on and have a chance to have a very brief announcement to find more people in more states and so on. That's all I was thinking.
Well, are you applying to be co-convener of the subcommittee?
No, I am not.
Well, the one thing, dear Joan, is people are very busy. And so this subcommittee has been meeting regularly for quite some time. I think we have the big states. We have Georgia, we have North Carolina, we have California, and WILF as an organization is relatively weak these days in terms of branch participation. So Greater Philadelphia has joined us, and that's a good thing. We have the new DMV branch, so I'm very comfortable with the level of participation. Now, I think that people are making decisions about where they want to be. If we can get the New York City branch started, which is a strategic goal of mine, then we would have the big state of New York. So if we have the big state of New York, the big state of California, we have Massachusetts, because Donna often comes. They don't have a death penalty either. So I'm doing what I can as convener of the subcommittee to make sure that we're building the level of participation that we need inside of the branches. So have a nice afternoon and a nice evening, and I'll see you at 8 p.m. Eastern time for the Advancing Human Rights Umbrella meeting. Thank you.
Thank you for chairing the meeting. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.